Mark Chivers, General Manager of SEABL, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Ed.
Mark, we're just here to have a bit of a catch-up to see how the transition process to Basketball Australia is going now that we've been here a few weeks. Can you give us a bit of an update about, how the move went, how the settling in process went, that kind of thing?
Sure. And the physical move began on January the 18th. We moved the office from Sandringham here to South Melbourne. And so far it's been very, very good. It's always small steps in a process like this, but we've been made to feel very, very welcome by the staff here at Basketball Australia, and we already feel quite a big part of their family.
Mark, can you give us an outline of some of the benefits that you've been able to see since the move has taken place?
Yeah, I mean, in the short term, obviously you don't see a lot, you're just settling in, but I think in the long term, obviously, when we, at the end of this 2-year transition and through that process, when we come under the control and authority of Basketball Australia, that we can already identify the opportunity to share resources with the staff here, and it's a two-way basis. There are things that we do pretty well that Basketball Australia would like to be part of, and there's many things that Basketball Australia do well that we'd like to be part of as well.
Mark, I also understand that the league undertook a review and strategy workshop not long after the move. Without going into too much detail, can you kind of talk us through that a bit?
Yeah, go back to 2008. The board presented the members a 3-year strategic plan for 9, 10 and 11. We've sort of pretty well achieved and met all the objectives we put down in that strategic plan. So the board met recently the plus was that we had involvement from Basketball Australia at our meeting to set ourselves a sort of a short-term and a little bit longer-term plan for the next 2 years and onwards for the league and the way we're moving forward. And it was very positive. We're in the process now of putting together a paper that we hopefully can present at the mid-season conference to our members to be accepted.
And Mark, the immediate to longer-term future, what's in store for SEABL over the next, say, 6 to 18 months?
Well, Ed, we'll continue as we are pretty well. We're at the moment we're just merely tenants of Basketball Australia here, and we're operating independently. Even at the end of the transition, we'll retain our independence and sort of remain as a business unit within Basketball Australia and still coming under the control of the Competitions Commission. So those things will happen over the next 2 years. In the short term, our SEABL D-League competition has now moved back and has come under the control of Basketball Victoria, and it's become the Basketball Victoria D-League competition, which is something that our Melbourne Victorian members were keen to see. They wanted their competition to be controlled by their state body. So those negotiations have been taking place over the last sort of 6 to 8 months, and that will happen in this season 2012. So those sort of things, obviously as part of our planning there'll be some issues come out of that with expansion and things like that, but we feel that we're in a pretty good place at the moment with the support of Basketball Australia in the future that those sort of plans can come to fruition a little bit easier.
Yeah, Mark, I guess there is a sense of, opportunity and optimism around, but that also goes for the upcoming SEABL season. It looks like it's going to be tight once again in both the men's and women's competitions.
Certainly, Ed. I mean, this year we welcome the Canberra Capitals Academy women team into the competition, which gives us a true two-conference structure for the men and the women, and we've rejigged the men's conference and now put in 2 women's conferences actually, so they match identically with men's and women's teams in the south and east. So that's caused a few, not so much concerns, but a little bit of excitement among the men's teams that they're now got to factor up, and for some clubs I guess it means they have to recruit a little bit differently to match up against who they're going to play in their conference. But it's this time of the year on paper everyone looks like champions, but we'll see a little bit further down the track sort of after the end of the first few rounds. We'll have a lot better idea on the quality of the teams. There's certainly quality of imports that have come into the competition this year seems to rise. Their standard, the level of these players seems to rise every year, and it seems to be the case this year as well.
And just quickly touching on the women's competition, Mark, a little bit of a different look being an Olympic year, but again, as you said, the 2 conferences, and it looks like being tight as well. Yeah,
definitely, Ed. I think, obviously our teams rely a lot on the WNBL players to to bolster their stocks as they come down, and I think in a lot of ways the WNBL players look forward to coming back to SEABL to earn a little bit more money and also to mentor some of the up-and-coming junior players within our program. So it's going to be a little bit different this year with not quite so many Opals involved or able to be involved, but that certainly opens the door for a lot of the younger players in the SEABL associations to participate, and we're still very, very excited about the fact that we'll be able to have 2 championship games, the actual SEABL men's and women's championship games on one day, followed by our awards dinner.
Yeah, let's talk about that, a new MVP format and really building on the success of the gala dinner last year.
Yeah, certainly, Ed. I mean, last year was astounded us even the amount support we received for our 30th anniversary gala dinner, and from that we've sort of said, well, let's have a go and see if we can make it an annual event. We think there's our history shows that there is support for the competition, and we're hopeful that our member associations will get behind it and support this annual awards dinner, and it'll make it an important night. Of past, we've presented awards at half-time and conclusions of grand finals, and it does take a lot of gloss off the award recipients. Sort of people are looking, people aren't looking, people are interested, people aren't interested. So if we're trying to make it into a gala night, sort of a dress up, come out and feel good about yourself, and sort of recognise the award recipients in the correct way.
Okay, thanks for that, Mark.
Thanks, mate.